formula that it should be generated. Those are actually we are trying to reach. In short, I already mentioned that as it is quite lengthy, so we cannot actually go for in detail, but at least we need to understand the scenario on based of actually how this algorithm is going to be developed. As you have seen here, that this diagram, or where a line is passing through, when it passes through actually the subsequent two of the pixels, and then maybe we may take the best one that out of those two. Best one in that sense that if the computer light up that pixel and try to avoid to not to light up the another one, then actually the line will become more smooth. And this selection process, or this taking for this decision for which pixel should be taken, which pixel should be avoided, that can be done randomly one after another with this set of many number of pixels. So the algorithm is actually supporting for that which pixel should be considered. So in naked eye we can see and we can feel like the first pixel for xi, yi, whenever it has been selected, then the second pixel out of these two, that xi plus 1 yi coordinate, xi plus 1 yi plus 1, then out of those two, which one should be considered? And we can feel it that the bottom one, the lower one, is actually the best one to consider, because a line is presumably that it is going through the most of the part of this pixel, comparing with the upper one. But to computer, that is actually the main concern in the logic for the algorithm, that how they will understand that lower one should be considered. So for that, actually, that from that line, these two of the pixels distances, that how far this lower pixel, how far this upper pixel. If we can identify and we make a comparison, then from that comparison we can make a actually logic that on the basis of that which pixel should be considered. That the distances that we are actually saying, the D1 indicating that from that line to that lower pixel, and D2 is from the line to the upper pixel, as you can see. And this point is actually we are considering a y. On basis of that we have taken an equation for the line, and for that y equal to mx plus c, that equation that we have actually developed, where that x is actually for that point is xi plus 1, because this is actually in this pixel it has fall, so xi plus 1, and then we actually simplify that equation to further. D1 we have considered that y minus yi, we have considered y minus yi, and D2 we have considered yi plus 1 minus y, so that minus y. Now these two equation, especially the second one for D2, that we have actually simplified with that y equation that we have put down in here, and T1 as well, that we have put down the y equation. Then we make a relationship between them, relationship in that sense that T1 and T2, which one could be bigger, which one could be smaller. If it is bigger, then what to do, or maybe smaller, then what to do for D1, so that we try to actually find out the difference between these two distances. And that this difference, if it is negative, it become, whenever we have actually considered the first one, then negative, then actually we can understand that if it is small, the D1, then it will be negative if we consider this, try to understand this equation. If d1 is smaller, then this equation will be negative. If d1 is bigger, then this equation will be positive. Now this distance, if it is bigger, then the line goes actually upper side, as you can understand. If it is smaller, the line comes to very close or middle of that pixel. So that if it is small, the d1 is small, then understandable that the pixel of the lower one may be selected. If the d1 is bigger, that means the equation becomes positive, then that line should then that pixel of the upper one would be granted, or it will be accepted. So that is the logic that we can actually consider. And the precondition about this algorithm already we have mentioned. You can see here as well that each and every pixel in the x coordinate has been incremented by 1 as it is goes, because the line, as it looks like that every cases, because the slope is actually less than or equal to highest maybe more than 45 degree, so that the line is actually more like more inclined with the x coordinate, while the if it is more than 1 the slope, then whatever the line we get, that is actually understandable. The y coordinate is actually getting changed in every cases, but the x coordinate may be changed, maybe not. The same like in this case, that y coordinate may be changed or maybe not. The best example we can see here that this one, if we select for the next time, if my first pixel is xi yi, then next pixel is xi plus 1 and yi. That means in that sense yi does not change. Okay, so in this case, but maybe in the next time it could be changed for the next one. So that's why actually we consider that the slope for the line, that is precondition that we actually consider, that it should not be greater than or it should be less than or equal to 45 degree. Okay, that means the value of slope should not be more than 1. That is the situation that we were in the last class. We will further actually move now from this equation. Okay, so up to this discussion, do you have anything to say?
Yes, sir. There are a confusion about
Yes.
d1. Since why you are writing y minus y1, since y1 is bigger than y, so won't we get the negative value from there about d1?
About d1 is y minus yi.
Sorry, sir. So why
Okay.
we are taking?
Because yi, that whenever we are actually considering any pixel coordinate, say like this one xi plus 2, and what is actually the y coordinate? Yi. This is actually yi. Okay, this layer y is actually exactly that point on the line. Do you understand, Ashik?
Yes, sir.
This is my line is going through. Okay, this is my line is going through. One of the point I am considering is actually y, but whenever we are talking about the pixel, okay, in different pixel, this pixel have actually some value. This is 1 2 3 4, here maybe y 1 2 3, like this. Okay, now this point, say like this point to this actually pixel, that distance. Okay, the distance will be what? The distance will be this one.
Yes, sir.
Right? Why I am taking actually this one? Because every pixel, if I want to consider that one, a pixel is actually what is called a square box. But whenever we consider about a point, we need to consider for that pixel a point. So that's why we have taken every case as the center point of that pixel, indicating or representing that pixel. Do you understand now, Ashik?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's why we have taken that d1 is actually y minus yi, because that pixel is actually yi, that y coordinate, and the distance, whatever we are actually considering, that is actually for the vertical perspective, isn't it? That means related with the y, not related with the x. So that's why our these two distances, d1 and d2, both are actually the y related values that we are having. Does it make sense now?
Yes, sir. Got it.
Okay, that's fine. All right. Any other concern? Otherwise, we will actually move to the further of this equation for d1 minus d2. We already have said why we have subtracted that, because we are trying to make a relationship to find out the difference between them, and on the based of the difference, maybe the computer gonna take the decision that which one I'm going to pick up. Okay. So we are coming back in there. Then let us finish the attendance first. I wanted to actually do that in half of the class, and then I thought maybe we go for implementation, but actually I cannot avoid that to discuss in detail about the derivation of this algorithm. Otherwise, you will only just memorize only those formula. Okay, I do request you to come to the video for a while, please. Okay, do you have Alif Laila Jannat?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Alif. Ashikur Rahman Ashik. Mohammad Ashikur Rahman Ashik. Mohammad Al Amin.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Al Amin. Nishat Ara. Nishat Ara. Shahidul Islam Antur.
Present, sir.
Antur. Sumaya Akhtar.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Sumaya. Arifa Akhtar Ritu.
Present, sir.
Ritu. Jinatun Nisa.
Yes, sir.
Jinat. Parvez Alam.
Present, sir.
Parvez. Ridwan Ahmed Ratul.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Ratul. Salvi Saba.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Salvi. Jakaria Hassan Pappu.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Pappu. Maria Mehjabin. Maria Mehjabin. Okay, I can see you that you are present, but it's showing, but no sound is coming. Abdul Khalek.
Yes, sir.
Rabina Afrinomi.
Yes, sir.
Naomi. Tasnova Yasinesha.
Yes, sir.
Yesha. Sharia Toyon.
Present, sir.
Toyon. Hussein Ahmed Antur. Hussein Ahmed Antur. Pratasha Roy.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Sharnika.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Sharnika. Khadija Ria.
Present, sir.
Ria. Rahat Islam Ruku.
Present, please, sir.
Ruku. Mahmoud Akhtar.
Yes, sir.
Mahmoud. Didar Al Mahmoud.
Present, sir.
Okay, Didar. Tamanna Tabassum.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Tabassum. Saib Sifat. Sifat, are you back? Cannot hear you. I can see you, but maybe you are present. Fairuz Tanjim Achal.
Yes, sir.
Achal. Sadiatun Nisa Shetuli.
Yes, sir.
Shetuli. Mustafa Uday.
Present, sir.
Okay, Uday. Sadia Hussain Nori.
Yes, sir.
Memory Sadia Akhtar.
Yes, sir.
Sadia Mantakimur Rahman.
Yes, sir.
Mantakimur Atik Faisal Imun.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Imun. Rahul Devnath.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Rahul. Nisha Taslim Jyoti.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Jyoti. Sadat Mahmud Khan.
Yes, sir.
Sadat, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, got it. Firdaus Hassan Rifat. Firdaus Hassan Rifat. Minhaj bin Monib. Minhaj.
Yes, sir.
Nahida.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Nahida. Hasibul Hassan Shanto. Hasibul Hassan Shanto. Sharmin Sultana. Sharmin Sultana. Ryan Hussain.
Yes, sir.
Ryan. Mohammad Alamin. Mohammad Alamin. Tariqul Islam.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Tariq. And Ashikul Jaman.
Yes, sir.
Ashik. So, anyone missed?
Sir, researching present, sir.
Isra Jarin, right? Yes,
Yes,
Isra,
sir.
you are present.
Yes, sir.
And Antur, Rifat, Shanto, Shamin, and Alamin. Okay. All right, let's come back to that. Then. Okay, so at this moment that we made a relationship d1 minus d2, we simplify the equation. As you can see here that if we simplify, then 2m of that xi plus 1 that we got for it, yi also we will get actually minus 2yi, then we got 2c, that c and that c, and minus 1 from here. So the equation looks like now this one. Now the concern is that the differences that we are going to get for this situation, now there is a chance of coming actually fraction. The fraction, it may come because you see here that the m, the rest of the things are actually all can be your number, that like c is a constant, but that will not be a fraction because there is no chance for having any nominator denominator, but that m is actually having chance of it, because m is actually what? Slope is actually del y minus del x. So there is a chance of coming the fraction. Now we need to avoid the fraction because we need to get a number, that whole number represent that actually the value, any either could be negative or positive or whatever. So what we can do to avoid the that fraction for that equation, what we can do? Yes, Minaj?
Sir, we can round the number.
That could be later, whatever the value you got, but in the equation to avoid the fraction, usually what we can do?
Sir, multiply by a number.
Exactly, multiply by a number. Which number? That number which is actually going to divide. So that del x, if we just multiply both sides with del x, so in equation 2, if we do like this way, this is actually the beauty of the mathematics. In equation 2, if we multiply both sides, right? Multiply both sides with del x, then actually we can easily avoid that fraction. That means actually it can be del x into d1 minus d2 is equal to del x and then the entire line equation 2m xi plus 1 minus 2yi plus 2c minus 1. Alright, we can do it. Now it is understandable that from that m the del x will be gone, so that actually there will be no fractional chances. Okay. At this moment that the situation we have got, you see the del x is a constant value, okay, and del x can be negative. Is there a chance that del x can be negative?
Sir, we are taking the absolute value.
We are taking mostly the absolute value, right? So that's why the sign or this outcome, because this is important, isn't it? We have said like we making this relationship to find out that if it is positive or negative. If it is positive or negative, then maybe the computer will take a decision that should I go the lower one or the upper one, which will indicate that which one is bigger, which one is smaller, right? So that's why this sign does not depend on this del x. Actually it depends actually this part or maybe this part, that what actually the sign it comes, right? So as this is actually important for our decision to take, so that's why we give it a name as p of I. Okay, p of I is nothing but that del x of the d1 minus d2, which is called p, indicating the parameter. Okay, we call it is actually the decision parameter now. So that is giving a name, that pi. All right, and I is why I'm giving it a variable here. The reason, you see that decision parameter, this one will be changed in actually in your finding or searching that algorithm when it is going to look out that which one I should take, because the scenario for this value for pi that may be negative, so that I am taking this one. So next pair there is maybe not this one, maybe here is another pair, or maybe here is another pair, or here is another pair, so that time maybe pi have a different value. So this is maybe my first decision parameter. There will be another decision parameter, there will be another decision parameter, another decision parameter. For this reason that we are actually taking that as a continuous value with that I as a variable for the parameter. Okay, so definitely we have successive parameter. That means from this one, then maybe there will be another equation for the pi plus 1. That means maybe next parameter. Okay, so like this way it will go. Now at this case, the equation looks like that del x, if we just multiply with that del x with this side. Okay, so I'm not going in detail, just we can get what the equation finally we can get is 2 del y. Okay, and because if we just do it, m is actually del x by del y. Do you understand? Then actually I'm getting it is xi minus 2 del x yi plus 2 del y plus 2 del x dot c minus del x. Right, I have skipped many lines here in between because that is actually the general simplification on the equation. We consider m is actually del y minus del x, then we try to actually multiply with all these points with, okay, then we get actually this equation finally like it. Right, do you understand that you may have a confusion, but if you just multiply with this and simplify all these things, then you will get like that the equation is my
Sir,
decision parameter. Yeah.
we have considered m as del y minus del x.
Yes, definitely. That's why actually we multiplied with del x.
Okay, sir.
Because
Yes, sir.
m is actually del y minus del x. Then we thought, okay, there is a chance of having fraction. So if it is need to avoid it, that's why you multiplied the del x. That is the only reason. And now actually we have simplified. So I better write down that one so that you are getting confused maybe. So the del x is actually 2 into del y minus del x, that has been multiplied with x of I plus 1, then minus 2yi plus 2c minus 1. Right, now if you just actually multiply that one with this and then actually multiply with them, then finally you will get actually that situation.
Okay, sir. Got it, sir.
Okay. Let me show you in the book, then maybe at least confusion will gone. Look what actually we have done in here, that m is del y minus del x, then xi, can you read it or it's very small?
Yes, sir. It's
Yes,
clear.
sir. It's clear.
Yes, sir.
Then we have actually what we have done, you see that del x into 2 into del x del y, sorry, that one will be 2 del y into xi plus 1, because that xx del x gone, and then this one will be 2 del xxyi, 2 del xyi, this will be 2 del xb, 2 del xb, and this one will be del x. And now this one, if we simplify, 2 del yxi, 2 del yxi, and this one is 2 del y, and this one is 2 del x 2y, and this one. So we just taken that x del x yi and del y xi in here, that part, and the other one is in here. Okay, that is the thing actually I have got in here. Write down in here 2 del y xi, 2 del x yi, and 2 del y del xc, and minus del x. Now you try to find out the significance here. What actually the point? The point is these two of the term are having xi yi, but these three term, 2 del y, 2 del xc, and del x, they are actually constant, right? Because for any point for the equation, that del x the value, the del y the value, and c is actually constant. They are not changing for other point as well. Do you get it?
Yes, sir.
Right? Because for any line, if it is any line, the del x and del y is actually same, because the distance you have got is actually that one, and the slope is actually same, because slope is actually the value for the del y minus del x, and also the intercepting point for the y coordinate, that is actually c, is true for all the line. Now if this is so, is actually this part is constant, we consider this part is actually with some other value. Okay, some other value is as the following part is constant. We consider that that is actually b. Okay, b equal to 2 del y plus 2 del x dot c minus del x. If it is so, then the equation now become the p of I is equal to 2 del y xi minus 2 del x yi plus b. we try to make it actually more simple. That's actually the objective. So we get the equation like this now. Okay, there should be actually many other equations, but just giving it a name. S3 is my decision parameter. That means actually del x minus del x into d1 minus d2. Okay, if my decision parameter is this one, now we already mentioned that look, this decision parameter, that one will be changed, because for this one maybe pi, then the next one will be the next decision parameter. That means actually pi plus 1, right? So my next point is actually pi plus 1. That means actually the next one, you need to understand, that is actually the value, the subscript value, actually I plus 1. It is not pi then plus 1. A significant difference, that xi plus 1 and xi plus 1. What is the difference between these two?
Sir, one is the value that is added to the x1, and one is the actually the next pixel.
Yes, exactly. So Iram, you need to consider they can be have same value. Okay, there's no problem, they can be a same value, but the notation is different. This is indicating that whatever you have in the xi, okay, you just add 1 with that. So my say like my xi is actually 20, in the point value is 20, then it's indicating about exactly 21. Okay, but this one is actually indicating the next value of xi. Okay, so next value of xi, whatever the xi we have, that xi plus 1 is actually next value of this one. For this case, you see here that for this case, it's a good example here. If this is my xi yi, the first value, okay, xi yi is my first value, the next pixel value is actually xi plus 1 or yi plus 1. That means actually next coordinate value for that pixel. But xi plus 1 is actually that whatever the value xi I have, 1 is added. But yi plus 1 is actually nothing has been changed, that same value of the y it has, but the notation is actually yi plus 1. For this one is yi plus 1. Okay, if this is actually the yi, right? So this is indicating that p of I 1 is actually nothing but the next value of pi, right? If it is so, then actually the equation would be the 2 del y, then xi plus 1. Okay, this is the same way that xi plus 1, the next value of xi, that will be minus 2 del x yi plus 1 and plus b. Okay, as we have taken that y next value of yi, because you see that for formula for the algorithm, we have to have in such a way that it dynamically find out actually all the possible of those pixels where you need to take a decision, and that's why in the decision we have, the next decision also we need to have. Now, how we make a relationship there, again with the same process that actually we have done with the d1 and d2, right? With the same process that what we have done, that p of I, that we can do is P of I plus 1 minus P of I. So we just subtract between them, and that actually will give us the relationship. And that actually the equation Pi plus 1 is actually 2 del y xi plus 1 minus 2 del x yi plus 1 plus b minus that 2 del y xi minus plus minus minus plus minus plus 2 del x yi minus b. Right, that actually we got. Sorry. So at this moment, if we just simplify the equation, we got you can see here that we can take actually common is 2 del y, then we can take xi plus 1 and minus xi, so that 2 del y, so xi plus 1 minus xi, we can take actually 2 del x as common, 2 del x, then we get yi plus 1 minus yi, and b has actually gone. Right, the equation now looks like that one, that p I plus 1 minus pi is equal to this one. Now the main discussion comes, like about this xi plus 1 minus xi and yi plus 1 minus yi, how they are actually related. Because for this one, for xi plus 1 minus xi, now what is xi plus 1 and what is actually the xi? If we consider this according to this condition, and we can understand the line is actually less than 45 degree or maybe equal to 45 degree, so every cases that x is actually incremented, so xi become the next xi plus 1 is nothing but xi then plus 1. If it is 5, then it is 6, 7, 8, like this way. So every cases that x coordinate value is changing. Now the next value of x, okay, the main consideration is the next value of x minus the previous value, then what you should get. If we have like
1.
that 1, it
Minus
should
1.
be,
Minus
yes,
1.
exactly, not minus 1, 1 actually, because that definitely is actually larger, isn't it?
Yes,
The next value of x is actually larger than the previous one, so every cases it should be actually 1, right? Because if we consider a line like this, now this is the concern, you see that why the equation would be different, that we have mentioned that if it is more than 45 degree or greater than 1, if the condition comes in the line, so that every cases x, the next value of x, that is xi plus 1 minus x, will not be actually 1, means actually not every time actually x will be changed, but the every cases yi plus 1 minus yi will be 1, because every cases the y coordinate value will be changed here, right? So for this case, that as we are doing less than or equal to 1, so xi plus 1 minus xi is actually 1, right?
yes,
Everyone accept it, right? And so that we can say that pi plus 1 minus pi is equal to 2 del y into 1, right? Into 1 means actually 1 minus 2 del x, and yi plus 1 yi, as we can mention that as all cases in this scenario, that xi plus 1 minus x of I is actually 1, right? Now comes to this one. This is actually the concern now. As you can see that this one, sometimes it can be yi plus next value of yi, sometimes it can be the upper one, sometimes it can be the lower one. If it is lower one, then the previous one and the next one are same, right? If it is considered the upper one, then it is with the previous one, it is having a this difference is actually 1. Do you understand my point?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So that's why this can be sometime 1, this can be sometime 0, because they could be the same. The example that actually we are showing here, that means we have drawn, that is actually 0, because this one, the y coordinate value for the next one, the first one was xi yi, the next one is actually xi plus 1 and yi. So the next coordinate for y value is actually the same. So yi minus yi is actually 0, right? For the example that actually we have seen. Now by our next value, like this way, if we can write that, if that the next value of yi plus 1 is actually yi plus 1, right? Or yi plus 1 is yi only. Okay, so if it is actually this one, then we get actually a 1, isn't it? Because that's actually the next value for it. Like for some cases, maybe we have select this one, select upper one, then the difference between upper one and the lower one, the previous one, is actually for the y coordinate value is 1 difference. Say this is 6, this is maybe 7, so 7 minus 1, 6 is actually 1, right? If we consider this one, then it is actually 6 minus 6, so it becomes then 0 when the next one is actually the previous one, so it actually gives you 0. Now from here we just move that, because we are going to make an equation for pi plus 1. We take the pi in the other side, so pi1, the next value of pi will be the previous value of decision parameter, then plus 2 del y, okay, minus 2 del x, and this one yi plus 1 minus yi. And when this yi plus 1, that yi plus 1 is yi plus 1, then yi plus 1 minus yi is equal to 1, right? And then the next pixel we are actually going to get, and you can understand that equation for pi is actually greater than 0, that you're gonna get it. Whenever actually we are going to get that one for the upper one, what about the situation happen for that equation, that d1 minus d2? If we consider this one, then what do you get actually for the equation d1 minus d2?
So
Definitely
D1
the
is
d1 is, yes, that is bigger than d2, right? If we consider this one, if
Yes, sir.
d1 is bigger than d2, then the equation become positive,
Yes, sir.
right? That means actually the greater than 0 value, right? Then this equation pi is actually that equation pi that we have considered in here, right? Where we have considered pi is actually this one that we have considered, that become actually greater than 0, isn't it, when d1 is actually bigger. And d1 is bigger means actually we are going to the upper one. If that line is getting bigger, say like this one, so definitely line is going most of the part of that upper one. So that's actually that pi will be. So when this is actually a 1, that means actually this is become actually 1, okay, then this equation actually retain like that pi plus 1 pi 1 is equal to p of I plus 2 del y minus 2 del x, okay. And here and this in this situation that actually we consider that p of I is greater than 0, right? And next pixel for this we can going to consider is our xi plus 1 and yi plus 1, okay. That is actually our next pixel. That should be the xi plus 1 and the next value. So that is actually for the positive when it is actually done, and for the negative when we are going, then actually we are getting it is negative, then pi plus 1 is, as you can see that this become then 0, isn't it, because the lower one it's going to have. So when that yi plus 1 is yi, then yi plus 1 minus yi is equal to 0, right? And in that situation the pi plus 1 becomes the p of I plus 2 del y, because 2 del x into 0 is actually 0, so the equation retain in that position then. And the next pixel would be is xi plus 1 and yi only, right? Yes.
So is it possible that P1 plus I, sorry sir, P1 I plus 1 minus Pi can be negative as well?
That is negative.
No sir, I was saying the exact value of Pi plus 1 minus Pi that you have written over here in the upper side. That if you consider 2 del, yes sir, this whole value, if you consider del y is greater than del x, and the right side, the whole portion of 2 del x into y plus that portion is smaller or greater than the 2 del y, then the pi plus 1 minus pi can be negative as well.
If you are talking about this is actually negative, it will come from that scenario, right?
Yes sir.
That and if it is actually it can be either 1 or either 0, right? If it is 1, then actually you got some value 2 del x, and usually that pi, we are considering actually the value of pi that will actually have an impact in here, because these are actually constant.
Okay.
Do you understand? These are actually constant. It is not changing for anyone
from the beginning.
And pi either can be, it is actually negative or positive. It will have an impact actually. Pi plus 1 is nothing but this is successive value of pi. It is depending on the value of this one, and in the next equation this is going to be the pi. Do you understand?
Yes I got it sir.
So that's actually falling in the iteration that this is actually we are doing. This is have a relationship, because next we are going to find out the P naught, the first one, because your algorithm is going to start with giving two value, only 2-point value, nothing else. Now the algorithm will start with the decision parameter. You see that on the base of that actually it will work out, because I have given my first point I have taken. Okay, this is maybe my first pixel I take. I'm giving you two pair of points, say like 5, 7 and 50 and 23. So like two set of points. So my algorithm will start from this point. So this is my 5, 7. Okay, if this is my 5, 7, then I found this next pair. That next pair the computer need to start for the decision. They need a decision parameter now. Now this calculation for del x, del y, we can get del x, del y, slope, all these things, but how we can get a decision parameter? So we need a decision parameter. That for that decision parameter there is a formula that we call the initial decision parameter, the P naught. Okay, that P naught, I was coming in that point. I'm not going to do all the calculation because that is also another long calculation, but P naught also have a formula. Okay, Ram. So that P naught is actually the initial decision parameter, have a formula of is equal to 2 del y minus del x. As you can see, that is also having the hints of the constant values. So as you have del y and del x, you can find out. So whenever we have this one is initial decision parameter, initial decision parameter, now the algorithm will start to work out. So if it is my P naught, is it negative or positive? Yes, say like it is negative, then I will go for actually which one? It is negative, so I'll go for this pixel. Okay, but for the next point, what should be my decision parameter? Then I will calculate this decision parameter, and whatever the value it will be, then it will be the P naught for the next one to find out. Okay, then if it is positive, then I will take that pixel and I will calculate the next decision parameter with this formula, and then this will be my P naught, the next parameter, the Pi, for the next one to find out. Like this way the iteration will continue. To understand, so negative and positive, it will vary. We need to check every time that what actually we are getting after the calculation. Okay, the only thing is, if it is negative, then we are taking the lower one. If it is positive, then we are taking the upper one. And this Pi is coming from that equation that we have actually discussed, with that we consider at the beginning or what point with the d1 and d2 relationship. And d1 and d2 are nothing but the distance. So visually actually we can feel the distance is bigger, then we are going for the upper one. Distance is lower for d1, then take the lower one. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, so I think the time is up. The equation up to in here, we have almost got actually all the equation. This one that I'm not showing you because I just can show you that how to get it is actually quite lengthy one. Another equation for it, having to get that P naught, the initial decision parameter, as you can see that from the point of y naught to consider, and then actually simplify the equation, substituting value, and finally we get 2 del y minus del x, so that we just only simply checking that one. Okay, so that you can get it. We must need this actually, the condition. These are the main formula for we are going to use for this one. Okay, when it is the condition of positive, and this one when the condition is actually negative. Okay, and these are actually the pixel that we are going to pick up. Okay, so the next day,
These ones are basically the working procedure.
this is actually, you see that how the algorithm has been generated and why it is necessary. You know that at some point, say like you are doing masters in some thesis in computer graphics, so you may going for develop some algorithm by your own, or maybe changing something in the algorithm, so you need to actually work from here. Do you understand? But when we are going for problem solving, that we are going to do, and in the exam also you will have, this is nothing but only using these formulas. But I try to actually show that is actually called the derivation of this algorithm, okay, or generation of this algorithm, that how it has been generated. I told you that I do take this one during the actually physical classes, and I need almost 2 classes for only this generation, because we need to draw with different marker and all these things, so it is far better to understand that. And one generation of this technique comes in the exam, but with online exam it's not going to come, because as you know that student will actually simply copy this one, but we are going to have actually the problem solving. So next day we are going to apply this algorithm, we'll write down in one place now only the algorithm formulas, and then we will apply for solving the solutions, like finding out all in between points for that. Okay,
Yes, sir.
I will actually give these documents to you with the video as well, so that I hope if you are if do go through, you will then actually better understand. Maybe if we don't have any question, then maybe I'll see you in the next week. There are chances to have a quiz exam. Okay, quiz exams means it is all about, like, I'll give you few hours maybe that you can actually attempt, and um, maybe any day by next week. And because the midterm is coming, and also we have to go for assignment, maybe I'll assign you something, then in the class, in the next class or somewhere, maybe we will discuss. But we are actually running out. We need actually 2-3 hours classes at a time, maybe. Then this type of algorithm that we can finish in one class, and we can move forward. Anyway, take care. I'll see you in the next week then.
Okay, sir. Assalamu alaikum.
Islam.
Assalamu alaikum.
Islam.